Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the best Zerg player this side of the Atlantic, the Canadian in the red. We have Scarlett facing off against her counterpart in the blue. It's Kelazhur in a best of 3 Terran versus Zerg showdown and part of Wardi's Boomer Bash tournament, where only players at the advanced age of 28 or older were able to qualify, which means it's very likely you could have qualified if you weren't busy finding a new way to smash that like button. Maybe even subscribe. Help me counter the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? Analytics can't be ageist. Oh, 1,617 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one, and I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what I do with my life at this point. So thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far, and hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. Starting things off with a Marine to keep Scarlett in the dark about things, not adding the Reaper early on. Kelazhur going with the much more attention and APM efficient option. I'm not going to read too much into it, but certainly easier to keep a Marine back at home and poke away at Overlords than it is to be constantly dueling with the Queens at the front of the creep. Couple Hellions on the way, and a third command center already entering production. Meanwhile, Scarlett clearly taking full advantage. She hasn't even started Zergling speed, which I don't think is a mistake. I think it's intentional. As why waste the gas? If you're up against a very economical play like this, you don't necessarily need Ling speed early. You can use that gas. A lot of players will get it anyways. Just in case you need to get roaches, to get speed, maybe for a quick lair. But the extra minerals, not something you want to spend if you don't need to. And the Hellions, Sir, this is private property. The Hellions just run right by, and the risks of not getting Ling speed pretty apparent here, but 2 Hellions run by, 2 drones incinerated, some mining time lost, and some confusion gained. He just runs by, so I think that was more of a scout than a deadly attack timing. There's no better way to scout your opponent than threaten their economy. The defenses must come out, and there really wasn't that much, but of course 2 Hellions are not a deadly threat on their own. The Queen's able to shut it down, and that's a pretty clear indicator that Scarlett is focused much more on economy. Kelazhur technically scouted the Roach Warren as well. The sheer drone count itself gives away the interest there. And so far, Scarlett doesn't really have any information on what Kelazhur is doing. Besides, obviously, there are Hellions. So, the Overlord is in position. Actually scouts the gas geyser, which is 3 more gases on the way. I mean, it's going to be a 3-2-1-1 for Kelazhur. The most dangerous early game timing gives you a lot of ability to both clear creep, put pressure on the Queens, and potentially deny a 4th base. Because the 4th base becomes the focal point of the Zerg in the early mid-game. Mostly for larva, not even just for the income, but for the larva. That is the biggest struggle for a Zerg player trying to compete with a macro-based Terran in the, let's say, 6 to 10 minute stage of the game. You want to build as many drones as possible, but now you can write this down if you have trouble remembering things nowadays. But every drone you build, or every roach or every set of Zerglings, is not a drone. And while Queens are great on defense, making them a more aggressive unit is not the easiest thing and not the most effective. So towing the line between enough drones and enough army to defend is always a very careful balance, with all puns intended. So far, Scarlett already at 50-something, adding 3 more gas geysers as well. Both players really ramping up production as we go into that early mid-game. The double drop heading out spots the Overlord, which means the Overlord spotted it, alright? That's kind of its entire job. That SCV. Woo, overtime! Go home, Billy. I don't know how you even got in there. SCV took a trip with the Marines, but now looking to clear up some of the creep. Dives down the center. Scarlett actually supply blocked as an Overlord taken out incidentally. Well, not really incidentally, but it just happened to be there doing its job. Overseer gets in, sees the double engineering bay. And if it wasn't clear before, it's pretty clear now. It's going to be Marines, medevacs, and tanks. up against whatever Scarlett chooses to deal with it. Another scan used to clear out the creep, keep it from metastasizing in the center of the map. So far, just creep tumors suffering the direct actions of these Marines, but that will change as time goes on. Speed upgrades on the way. Almost every Zerg unit has a speed upgrade. Creep itself is a speed upgrade, especially for the Queens. But closing the distance and getting vision is everything. Zerg still the very reactionary race, whereas Terran putting together these timings in order to make sure the reactions are not as strong as they could be. Takes out another Overlord. Scarlett supply blocked again. Infestation pit on the way. But Kelazhur actually takes the supply leak because Scarlett can't build anything more at the moment. 1-1 in combat shield not done, which means the roaches are still more than enough to compete. Scarlett with 1,300 minerals in the bank. Not ideal here. Building only one more Overlord. These supply blocks are really starting to cut into her potential at the moment. But the fourth base is done. It's begun to mine. Kelazhur with another scan to clear up the creep that he just cleared up a minute ago. Deja vu. We've just been in this place before. But it keeps spreading. 1-1 is done. Armory already completed. Kelazhur starts 2-2 moments later. Picks up 4 medevacs. 2 of them full. Another one, Marine fly in first class, but very unlikely to be able to drop out and get real damage done. Already infestors on the way. Scarlett making use of them more than pretty much any Zerg I've seen lately, especially before the Supreme late game. Not just infestors to have something resembling a prayer against Mass Ghost, but infestors as part of the main composition. And they can still be good, but they require just a little more babysitting, and it feels like it sometimes, than your average roach or Zergling. They have a tendency to wander to their deaths if you're not careful, especially if burrow isn't completed. But here comes some Marines. Only +1 attack, ranged attack for Scarlett so far, though she's working on +1 melee and carapace simultaneously. Couple infestors coming down with the Ravagers, threatening the Marines, but not quite enough. 3 more barracks on the way, gonna complete the Octo-Rex, but Kelazhur, not really all inning on this timing. He's got 2-2 on the way. He's got a 4th command center headed down the center. Queen Brandon, no! Oh, I told you we shouldn't have followed Apple Maps, Susan. I thought MapQuest. How old are you? Sorry. The Queens driven into the unit's loss tab. Scarlett with plenty left over, but that's going to slow things down even more as the creep spread keeps... They're just dueling over creep spread down the center, but the main army, looking the other way, a massive fungal. Throws up the corrosive biles. It's not enough to bring them down. Here come the roaches, the siege up. The fungal was not enough damage to break the critical mass of Terran, and now multiple siege tanks firing off volleys that just crush the roaches on their own. So Scarlett gets a good start to the fight, but she can't follow it up in time to really dislodge this Terran army. But she's maxed out with nowhere else to go. Still plenty of roaches on the field. Plenty in production. Ultramass Cavern is on the way. The late game option, especially against just Marines and tanks. A few Vipers and the Ultras can cleave through the entire army. Kelazhur backs off. He's got a 2nd factory in production, but there's 2 Vipers now joining the tab. Adrenal glands as well. Scarlett solidifying her position. 5th base really doesn't want to let Kelazhur get into position on the low ground. Big counterattack as well. The 4th base is a planetary, but another will be canceled. The reinforcements are not enough to deal with this. The banelings are rolling through. The Marines are stimming forth, raining down corrosive bile, and a shotgun blast is able to take down some medevacs and tanks. Meanwhile, the reinforcements are struggling with whatever Scarlett has thrown into the natural. Some SCVs dying to the Zerglings. Kelazhur A-clicked his own refinery. Meanwhile, the corrosive bile's missing the mark. He kills the refinery, which means the reinforcements are now actually fighting the Zerglings. But one misclick making the difference here, and the SCV is paying the price. But despite all of this, Kelazhur holds strong, deals with the Ravagers, kills a bunch of roaches, and by a bunch, only 8. Huh, it's actually crazy. But 80 Zerglings in the mix. Down to 64 SCVs, which is still a tenuous economy. That's still perfectly fine on 4 bases. But Kelazhur can't suffer another fight. He needs to get some damage done. Because Scarlett, that was the worst army she'll have for the near future. It had no Vipers. It had no Infestors. It was just conventional Zerg. But now there are Vipers on the field, Adrenal Glands completed, and Ultralisk in production. Things do not get easier for the Terrans for quite a while yet. But the Liberators over the top, the Venn diagram of freedom, going to annex this base. Throwing up some corrosive bows, but the minerals are making it very difficult for the Ravagers. A couple get taken out. A Spore Crawler. The only thing the Ravagers can't take down easily. Kelazhur will end up losing it. But the Marines and Marauders stimming up to the north side. I don't think he has a scan, so he backs off. The creep has respread down the center. She's so good at that. Scarlett is maxed out, but Kelazhur has done a great job of staying right there with her. The Queen's on the low ground, spreading in the creep. Meanwhile, an awkward angle. Blinding Cloud on the low ground. The Ultra's chewing through. Corrosive Bow's not finding much. The siege tanks, Ultra's boxed out by her own Zerglings here. A huge baitling mine. Scarlett going for the bait. Like 8. Remember that one time Scarlett used baitling mines against Bomb? That was 11 years ago, Grandpa. And it feels like yesterday. That's also problematic, Grandpa. Meanwhile, the bailings, well, a couple Marines. Did he notice the burrow? It seems like a strong maybe on that one. Okay, I'm leaning towards no at this point. Come on. Come on. I mean, there's not going to be a better time, so. Scarlett. There is still the siege tank, so. I don't. She has vision of it. Spire's on the way. At some point, there's going to be a missile. Yeah. No, that's a sensor. And there it goes. Just spontaneous detonation. 6 more SCVs dead. Kelazhur still looking good. Ultras chewing through. Some Ghosts able to get the snipes off. Several Ultras taken down, but the command center denied. 12 SCVs dead in total in the last minute. As Scarlett continues to lay on the pressure, a single very brave Marauder will chase down the army, but it's not going to be enough. Sending out a medevac over to the bottom right corner. God, the creep. Kelazhur has not done a bad job of denying it, but it hasn't been nearly good enough. Creep tumors don't show up in the unit's loss tab. Technically, Kelazhur has not destroyed a single building, at least so far. But here come the Ultras and Vipers. Blinding Cloud on the tank, rips it apart. Another one. Lings and Banes rolling into the mineral line. The SCVs will be forfeit. Another Ultra taken down, but quantity has a quality all its own. Kelazhur with a base trade will take out the base to the 12 o'clock. So finally putting it on the board. An Ultra will burrow at the natural. He had to notice, right? More Banelings rolling in, trickling down. Marines in the bottom right corner. Medevac driven away. I don't. He didn't notice. He didn't notice the largest Zerg unit is now burrowed at your natural. But Ultra's actually in one of the silliest buffs of the last few years. Got a buff to how fast they burrow, which is very rare to be useful, but clearly Kelazhur was looking the other way. And this Ultra could actually do critical damage to the economy. He's only got 55 SCVs left. Losing just a few more could be game-ending. Kelazhur has been on the defensive for most of the match. 6 more Dropper Lords on the way, which brings her to 6 because she hasn't tried it yet, but Operation Overlord will begin. Scarlett not willing to sit back and relax when she could go for the kill. And here comes another wave of Ultras. One back at home, one in the natural, cleaving through the SCVs, and the main army, Blinding Clouds. Ultras lead the charge. Forced to fight in between the command centers, making life difficult. Throws out a fungal, but the Ultra cleaves through the natural. A dozen SCVs dead. Okay, this time it's not going to get away from the scans, but its purpose is served. And right now, Kelazhur also getting served. A notice of eviction as Overlords somehow. How do you fit the Ultra in there? Actually, I did not want to know that. Ugh. Oh, sorry. Moving on from anything like that. Is that the second Spire? Flyer attack level 1. Nidus network. Scarlett just overtaking the map. She's got money in the bank. Full map control. Kelazhur is technically maxed out, but it's a great army composition, but there's creep almost blocking the bases as they try to expand. Scarlett has the 6 o'clock. She has her half the map and is working on Kelazhur now. The Vipers looking to yank out whatever they can. There's no... Wow. The barracks under attack. The drops coming in. Ultralisk drop on top of the ghosts. I think they have cloak, but doesn't use it in time. The Ultra might try to burrow in the corner. Barracks being ripped apart. A planetary fortress obliterated. Banelings roll through. Will he notice that the Ultra was burrowed in the main? The ghosts are on their own here. Line up a volley. Pop one of the Ultras. This is incredibly optimistic. EMP on the infestors. But oh my, the creep spread is ridiculous. She has not stopped. The Ultra unburrows in the main. I've never seen 190 supply look so weak. Kelazhur technically has a 30 army supply lead, but would you know it? Looking at the map right now. He cannot bring enough to bear. The ghost will cloak, costing them some of their energy. The planetary just almost incidentally dies. The creep is encroaching from all sides. The Banelings! Wombo combo! It all comes together. Parasitic bomb, and Scarlett cleans the table. Ending the game with creep spread over like 80% of the map. Obliterating the Terrans on the field. And that looked more one-sided than a Mobius strip there. Wow. He couldn't get anything. Theoretically, some strong options. But practically was unable to make any progress. Usually, the main way to dismantle that sort of unit composition is multitask. You rarely can win a fight heads up, but you can force the Zerg into so many different locations that get spread too thinly. But unfortunately, the only spread that looked strong there was the creep. Going into game 2, Frostmine. Scarlett now in the blue. Kelazhur, the red in the bottom left. That was a clinic. And I do appreciate Scarlett adding in all the details as well. Spire, Nidus at the end. Didn't have a Hydra den, but there weren't... Well, if you just skip the Hydras and go to Corruptors, that Hydra phase is not really needed. If you have enough economic advantage, then the Ultras and Corruptors can essentially just stiff-arm the Terran off the field. Hydras are more of a back-and-forth sort of situation. Like, if they're well-established, you might need the Lurkers. But it's a bit of a stylistic choice. If you choose not to go for Hydras, then you're opening yourself up to that multitask. Medivacs. Liberators. But she put so much pressure on Kelazhur that he had a couple counterattacks that were successful, but overall, not even close to enough. So, we'll see if he mixes it up. Take out some of that trademark mech play, maybe, in game 2. I'd love to see it, as I don't think that a similar strategy, I think it'll go a similar direction. Like, that was clinical. I also love how I had to, like, reorient myself 3 or 4 times because of deja vu. Of seeing Kelazhur clear creep down the center of the map in, like, the same location. He'd clear it out, come back a minute later, clear it out again, come back a minute later. The diligence continuing to respread the creep. And it clearly paid off by the end. Well, we'll see. Overlord. Again, a Marine start. Will he, move the reactor? Oh, and Scarlett. trying to sneak it by using that high ground location in order to maybe... I believe this is a pervert pillar over here where the Overlord can look down on things. So technically it does with everything. Right. Remarkably pretentious for what they are. And again, Scarlett with the holding on to 100 gas. Not yet deciding on Zergling speed. 4 Lings against 2 Marines. Either side could win that with the SCV involved, then likely the Marines will be able to handle it. Yeah, still holding off. This has become the more common way, just kind of keeping your options open. If you see, say, 2 Rex Reaper at the front, you need that Zergling speed. It's required. But maybe they try to block your base, then you just go for Zergling speed. But if you don't go for it, then you have the minerals to get more economy early. It's a knee breaker build, right? Yeah, has to be. Who builds a Marauder? I don't... Hiding the Marauder. Just 2 Hellions heading out. The Overlord continuing to sneak. See how long the Viking takes to find it. And there's the armory. It's going to be a Hellbat push, but this is a 2-base Hellbat time. To be clear, my criticism of Hellbat timing is when you try to treat them as anything but an all-in. Okay, you need to do damage with Hellbat timings. You've invested so much in units that do not age well. If they get enough roaches or just enough queens and lings, you get crushed. But a strong, early Hellbat timing can be deadly. Especially if you catch just 1 or 2 of the queens out of position. Well, then the entire monarchy can fall right there. So, I do think this has potential, but 6 roaches on the way. The Marauders are there in order to tag units, slow them down so they can get incinerated by everything else. And this could transition. Viking. That's select all army killer. Bit lackadaisical. Though, yeah. Okay, sends it back. Didn't actually find the other Overlord. This should be pretty obvious what she's dealing with here. But the queens, retreating now. Brenda, is it getting hot in here? Yeah, they're gonna take out all our drones. So get over here. I was trying to make a rep. Not now! Sorry. I blacked out. 50 drones to 38 SCVs. Kelazhur getting another base. Actually just backing off. Interesting. Just immediate retreat here. Interesting choice indeed, because Scarlett's going to have a pretty comfortable amount of workers. The Viking! Oh no. This could be devastating. There's no creep here. There's no vision. Those drones are forfeit. The Spore Crawler may kill the medevac, but a lot of these drones are going to die. A great move here from Kelazhur. Scarlett actually split the drones so well that it's not going to be... It's still bad. 11 drones. Kills the medevac and all the Hellions. 11 drones is quite a solid haul. We'll even spot the 4th base. Really? Okay. The Viking lands and we'll try to... You know, I will eat a chocolate shoe if it forces a cancel here. Alright, the Viking will lift off. Liberator on the way over. Quite a delayed Liberator, but might work even better because of it. Hellions, hello? Hellion-o. No. This is awkward. Oh my. Lines them up. Getting charbroiled throughout the natural. 15 drones, 17 drones. The Liberator also finding kills. The Hellions squid. Brenda, I told you to bolt up. Oh my. It's a disaster for Scarlett. 25, 27. These are nostalgic levels of drone kills for Hellions. Wow. Oh my. 28 drones slaughtered. Wow, that was terrible, terrible damage. The Hellbats didn't get it done, but the Hellions certainly did. And now Scarlett is equal on workers, able to bounce back, but the amount she's spending on just reestablishing the economy, her 1-1 is about 30, 40 seconds behind. Roach speed just started. There is no Zergling speed. This is a precarious situation for the Canadian Zerg. The Viking is finally knocked down by the sultry spore crawler, but Kelazhur is going to have a lot more opportunity to get damage done with the initial tank push here. It's going to hit a little bit later, but relatively much harder. As with this much economic backing and with Scarlett being so far off of a potential high, it's very unlikely she can deal with this without either slowing down the rest of her tech or taking even more damage. But somehow, some way, she's back up to 80 drones and building more. Scarlett, well, if we wanted a boomer tournament that triggered the nostalgia in players across the world, here we go. Scarlett at 88 drones against Kelazhur's 69 SCVs. So a very nice position economically across the board. And building more. You don't need more drones. The infestors pop out. Fungals all over the place. Are you talking to me? No, what? You said fun gal. Brenda. To the unit's lost tab with you. I don't... A queen's taken down. Kelazhur coming across the map. Scarlett countering all this pressure with reckless, incredibly ambitious greed. Having 4 base economy despite all the damage. If she can get to Hive and Vipers, well, then we're on relatively even footing. The creep spread is, well, you know. It's been slowed, but it has not been stopped. There's only 3 queens. But still. Meanwhile, the drop to the north. Hive is nearly done. 2-2's on the way right now for Kelazhur. +2 Carapace and +1 melee attack for Scarlett in production. But the Quadra drop. The Viking did its work. Denied all the overlords to the north. Ultraless Cavern is on the way. Meanwhile, roaches and lings ripping down the rocks, but the drop in the main goes right past the spore crawler perimeter. The base itself, that one has burrow in production. The evolution chambers are vulnerable. Another army to the south. Dividing and looking to conquer is Kelazhur for now. Not sure how much army is down there. Corrosive Biles clip one of the medevacs, but there's just not enough. Here come the infestors pre-splitting. Beautifully done. And we'll grind through, but the drones will be vulnerable and actually winning the fight in the main. Oh no. It's falling apart. Small counterattack. Kelazhur's units just won. The main base is gone. Burrow completed, but you can't burrow all your units at once. That's not a winning strategy. Ultraless in production. The spawning pool has to be rebuilt. The infestation pit is down. This is... Oh no. Looks like will finally be dealt with. But at what cost? Scarlett... What are all these tanks doing here? Why are the tanks on their own? Oh, starting to siege up, but Scarlett loses most of the tech that could have brought her back into a stable position. How many Vipers? Did the Vipers survive? 2 Vipers. They won't be rebuilt for quite a while. Ultras popping out of the remarkably small eggs. Get obliterated instantaneously. Paperless for the moment. Kelazhur has an upgrade advantage. Working on 3-3. Blinding Cloud. Fungals. This is the absolute best case scenario. More Blinding Clouds. There's just so much Terran. The Blinding Clouds don't last forever. The Marines and Marauders cutting through, and Scarlett just simply does not have enough. Well-timed attacks, both against the drones and the base itself. Kelazhur draws the match even. Beautifully done. Scarlett just taking critical damage multiple times. I thought she had a chance to recover, which is kind of ridiculous in and of itself, but Kelazhur capitalizes with time to spare. And that brings us into Sandworm. All right. Now, a lot of people hate sand. They find it coarse and irritating. just like begging to like and subscribe. Yet here we are. All right? We find ourselves once again. Scarlett. I don't know if I'm not going to say good to see, but it is amusing. That's also the wrong terminology, but it is satisfying to see that our favorite players are still making our favorite mistakes. Scarlett with reckless greed, getting caught, losing an absolutely devastating amount of drones, and then still somehow having 90 at 8 minutes. Kelazhur able to follow up that timing, though. Will this be our mech game? I'd be surprised if we get the entire series without it, but we will see. And let me know, and let Wardy know, if you want to see more Boomer Bash tournaments. So, despite the age requirement being 28, well, I think that was kind of pointed, because Cyril just turned 27. Clem and Max Pax clearly younger as well, so pretty much this was the only way we could have a tournament where Clem and Max Pax aren't in the fight. I don't think that was the exact intent, but it had a happy little side effect. Alright. This map has created some very dramatic games, with the sand spires in the center blocking the larger units, the rocks blocking just the mineral line of the gold base, which is an interesting mechanic. Allows you to take the base and then clear the rocks while it's building, giving a little bit more leeway. And now a Reaper for the first time. Poking and prodding at the links. I'll be very disappointed if I don't see Mac Kelazhur. Alright. Not very I'll be slightly disappointed. My day will not be entirely ruined. My disappointment will be measurable. About 4. Yeah, sounds right. Aliens. We actually haven't seen a single Banshee. And not just because they have great cloaking devices, but... Pops up to the high ground. Gonna get a look around. Scarlett this time just investing in speed right off the bat. Seems to be Reaper dependent. If Reaper, then Zergling speed quick. If not, more macro. Just have to remember not to let those Hellions in. Sir. Alright. It looks... Oh, wait for it. Hold. Banshee. With cloak on the way. The full complement. Hellions headed across the map. A dozen Zerglings. Looking to match them. Maybe, just making sure after last game's experience. Hello? Okay, yeah. This actually, the creep spread already so far out. It's the efficiency too, pretty much going, well, near the maximum. Like right at the very edge, on cooldown. The Zergling's gonna work on the rocks at the gold. Stim is on the way, so it will be another bio play. Double gas at the natural. Interesting to see that so early behind this. This Kelazhur already has a lot of gas in the bank. So, not really necessary to get too much more, usually this early, but we'll see what he has in mind for it. Hellions dueling with a queen, incidentally, well, probably intentionally lining up a creep tumor with him. Roach Warren is on the way alongside the lair. So Scarlett gonna go with that Roach-based mid-game again. I think most of the time the Roach Ravager into later game Lingbane and then either Hydras or Ultras, it is lower risk and lower reward than just straight up Lingbane. Straight up Lingbane, if you play it perfectly, is cheaper and has more counterattack potential. But Roaches are just safer. Alright, Roaches are much less likely to die in split seconds. They're much less likely to get countered by a great civil architecture. So, having a core of Roaches to make sure you have some sort of ranged units and potentially Ravagers, and then heading to Hive is the most stable way. The double NG Bay has already begun those 1-1 upgrades. Kelazhur opens up the gold. Scarlett working on her own, but that'll be her 4th base. Kelazhur takes it as his 3rd, which means the income, well, on the y-axis, the income's not too far off already. The gold base certainly going to help out there. There's a set of rocks down each side of the sand spires as well. Scarlett's creep already reaching across. Nidus. Wow, 66 drone Nidus. Full 3 base saturation. Not looking to get too greedy this time around, but instead much more aggressive. Is there an Overseer's headed north? Quite conspicuous considering what we know. Probably won't be as obvious for Kelazhur unless he actually scouts the Nidus itself. The beauty of it is, when you're playing against Zerg, from personal experience, I'm 1/3 Zerg myself, but 2/3 not Zerg. You don't feel like they're going to do an all-in if they have creep spread that's this good. Okay, it feels like a big macro play then. But this is 66 drones. Kelazhur. There the SCVs, the boys are pulled. What, you run out of Marines? Technically. 1-1 about to be done. There's the stims, a little late. Not going to try to pop out, but the Queen's at the front. 3 Roaches in position alongside the Banshees, though. And yeah, but the Queens inside the Nidus probably want to pop back out whenever they get the opportunity. Gonna go for the full Nidus push. All right. Well, 1-1 is going to be done momentarily. Scarlett not too put out by this. Having anything on the high ground. The 3 racks to block. I love it. Meanwhile, the Queens... We've arrived! Brenda, I feel like we could have walked. That's not the point, Susan. Oh, get on board. The Banshee is uncloaked. Couple Ravagers moving forward. Not enough to one-shot those tanks, though. That Queen's a little off the creep. One going to be the first casualty. Finally, the Banshee's taken out of the sky. A bit of an awkward fight here. The Roaches continue piling in. 1 tank will be taken down. Scarlett continues forward. But 3 siege tanks are making this very difficult. Another Nidus in the main, though. And way too late of a reaction. Kelazhur pulls the SCVs, but there's no one else here. The Marines and tanks are scrambling back to defend. A couple Ravagers into the mineral line of the 3rd. Clip a few more SCVs, but the SCVs in the main base having a much tougher time. The Queen's in possession. Several transfuses available, but everybody piling back into the... Oh, no! Didn't expect some of us in the wreckage. The Queen's left behind, but Scarlett bounces back to the front line. Roaches and Ravagers continue to rip through the defenses. Only 1 siege tank remains. Kelazhur down to 110 supply with 42 SCVs. And that will not be enough to answer this question. How do you deal with the Roach Ravager? On an even economy, it's easy enough, but certainly right now, starting to suffer as Scarlett has a gold base of her own, up to 72 drones. And Kelazhur has not been reliably mining. The 2-2 upgrades are on the way, and that will be a moment to potentially turn things around. The value of the upgrades on those Terran units cannot be overstated. The Marines firing so quickly, and since the Roaches and Ravagers are unlikely to kill them in a single hit, that means it's more likely they'll survive to get healed. Drop split off. The Nidus creep extending over the majority of the relevant parts of the map, but not quite enough to spot the drops to the north side. Creep continuing. Another base attempted by Scarlett over to the 9 o'clock position. And the Roaches coming back to defend. That opens up another opportunity to fight on the map as well. Kelazhur playing this well, really using the mobility of the medevacs. And that's the main weakness of Scarlett's composition. More queens. Will be taken down. 7 queens dead so far. Much less than that remaining. She's tried to rebuild. But it's getting closer to a position where Kelazhur can put together a 200 supply push. And with that, with better upgrades against Scarlett, who just started a hive, that is a deadly option. Hive has begun. +2 ranged attack and Carapace are on the way, but +3 infantry weapons and armor are already begun for... It's in production. Okay. I'm saying begun so many times, it's making my brain think it's not a word anymore. Began and... be gone. Well, medevacs on the high ground, actually fighting. Meanwhile, Liberator siege up the main, but the Spore Crawlers will take them down with great prejudice. Attempting to drop behind the 9 o'clock base again. The main Terran army, but there's creep that spots all of it. That's just almost a given at this point, but Scarlett's creep spread, the best defense. Knowing where to put her units well before they need to be there. The one time she didn't have that, when the Hellions drove in the last game, it clearly cost her. Meanwhile, siege tanks lined up. The drop shut down. Scarlett nearly maxed out, and 198 over 184, losing several overlords on the field. The siege tank line, in the literal sense, helping out a lot here. Corrosive Bile knocks down the front line. Banelings rolling through. The siege tanks will thin them out, but the tanks themselves are vulnerable. Another volley. And all Scarlett needs to do is rebuild before the Marines can counterattack across the field. Yet another queen exposed. Corrosive Bile's not enough to drive this back, and Kelazhur is tearing the survivors apart. Zerglings rebuild. Viper's halfway done. 3-3 not quite there for Kella. The medevacs overhead helping out so much. This is the most dangerous moment for Scarlett before the Vipers are on the field. Roaches and Ravagers. Not quite enough right now. Banelings rolling in. Ooh, big Baneling connection, but doesn't kill the critical mass of Marines. I'm sure the Vipers are gathering energy now. Indeed, they are from the Nidus network of all things. 3-3 about to complete, but Kelazhur driven back at that moment. Reinforcements streaming across the map. Kella with a 4th base. Planetary on the way to the north side. Scarlett holding it together. And now with the Vipers. But Kella still has 3-3 done. Some drones transferring at an inopportune timing. Fighting heads up here. Parasitic Bomb could be very helpful. Blinding Cloud and Parabomb. And the medevacs are out of energy either way. And suddenly Scarlett with a very odd fight here. Okay. Corrosive Bow knocks down a Liberator. There's almost nothing left underneath. Kelazhur just running out of units. What a awkward fight by the end, as both players out of energy and almost out of units. But Scarlett able to reinforce more quickly, and Corrosive Bile doesn't require energy. The Ravager count continues to grow dramatically. 12 Ravagers on the field. Kelazhur down to just 34 Marines, 2 tanks, and 6 medevacs. Building some more Liberators overhead. Second factory. Is that a second or third? Second factory on the way. But Scarlett has secured her position over most of the map. Just those corner bases left untouched. The creep spread now extending over the northern corner. Still holding on down the center. The queen count has been precariously low for a while, ever since the great death of the queens in the main. The royal mistake, if you would. Not even bothering with the Parabomb, instead thinking about Blinding Cloud here. Gonna use it on both tanks, incidentally hitting the Marines. Scarlett breaking through. Parasitic Bomb with enough energy left over. The Zerglings on top of the SCVs. The siege tanks falling. Vikings come out and knock down one of the Vipers. But a wave of corrosive biomachine guns down the orbital command. And a chunk of the economy with it. Scarlett suddenly up 80 supply. And just like that, the tide has completely turned. The reinforcements will not be enough. And Scarlett claims victory. 2-1. Appropriately, Game 3, our most back and forth as both players kind of getting a feel for it. But Scarlett maintains that strength. The longer the game goes on, the more she's able to consolidate that position and use the creep spread and control to her advantage. But to Kelazhur's credit, putting together some strong timings that almost carried it through again. So, a great back and forth series. I think worthy of these elderly players. And hopefully you enjoyed as much. Jimmy, what is this? What is this font? What have you done? We're going to talk about this. Not now. I'd edit this out. But thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. If you got the means of motivation, be awesome. Check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free. At least for now. So thank you to our mule tier patrons for bringing in the extra minerals. Big Jiggy Davendor, Mario, random guy in the chat, and Sue. Glad you still enjoy. And to everyone, I hope I made your day just a little bit better. Thank you to Wardy for putting on so many great tournaments. Make sure to check out his 2025 tournament series if you got the opportunity. I'm looking forward to more games from it. Otherwise, good luck, have fun. I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Stay chill.